It's now time for the Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
We are leveling up. We are going to be leveling up. The song is about 99% done. I was tweaking it a little bit this weekend, and next week I'm going to seek out a videographer. We'll do a little video intro. When that's ready, Wednesday Night Dynamite invades YouTube. What's up, everyone? It is Sunday night, August 9th, 2026. Welcome to the Sit Down with yours truly, Don Tony. I got my Zambuca all ready to go. Black Zambuca. Just like my, well, no, never mind. How's everybody doing this weekend? Seth Rollins. WWE has a problem. A Seth Rollins problem. A big problem. You might agree. You might disagree. I will make the argument. And I will tell you, I came prepared to have an intelligent discussion. And we are going to visit the WWE Superstars page to have this discussion go a little bit further. First of all, best wishes go out to Chelsea Green. I know obviously that's the huge topic of discussion this weekend. She broke her orbital bone in her eye, on Friday SmackDown. Now, look, it sucks. Rhea Ripley just had knee surgery. It's kind of ironic because we suggested last week that Rhea Ripley should do a video. It's respectful. It looks good on Rhea Ripley's part, and it puts Chelsea Green a little bit more over. Rhea Ripley should go on video and say, listen, I just had knee surgery. I don't know when I'm going to be back. So as far as I'm concerned, I am surrendering this title. Chelsea Green is the only WWE Women's Champion. And make no mistake about it, when I do come back from my knee surgery, I'm gunning for that title. That's what they should have done last week. It's probably good that they didn't do it because now Chelsea Green is injured. But I tell you, the fact that she was home and looked pretty decent. I don't think the orbital bone injury is extremely serious. Undertaker had it. Bryan Danielson had it recent years. Rhea Ripley has had it. Chelsea Green, look, next week you come out with the mask, a half mask. A week after, you have a little confrontation. 2 weeks from now, you have a lighthearted match. Maybe you have a rematch. This way, Tiffany Stratton could take a little bit of the stress off. You have Chelsea Green just doing just enough. And hopefully Chelsea Green will be able to defend that championship. No reason why she can't. One thing we don't want is we don't want an interim. I hate interim, period. To me, interim is just falsely inflating Rhea Ripley's championship stats. Because trust me, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when we look at those title runs, we're not going to look back and say, oh, she held it for a year, but she was out for 7.25 months because of a knee injury. Surrender the fucking belt. And make it look like Rhea Ripley is the one that wants to do it, because it just makes Chelsea Green look that much better. But let me tell you something. Brother, WWE legitimately does have a Seth Rollins problem. We're going to get into that. And I kind of started setting this up on Patreon. I tell you, this Thursday's Patreon, and I'm not saying it as a cheap plug, that was a pretty wild show because we talked about several things that ended up happening already. And I saw somebody super chat about the Brian Alvarez thing. That's ridiculous in itself. I mean, you know, and I was mad because after I did Wednesday Night Dynamite, it literally punched me right in the face. Like, you know, Brian Alvarez, for those that don't know the story, he went viral once again. And he told the world, you know, it's likely, possibly, reportedly, never say never, but, you know, I'm going forward with the news story, so obviously I think it's legitimate enough that I'm telling you all, instead of, you know, maybe waiting a little bit longer. No, get the story out there. Get the story out there. As long as I use words like likely, reportedly, possibly, anything could change, things, blah, 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 blah. Just put it out there. So he goes fucking viral, and what does he say? The leading person to face Roman Reigns on the September whatever Raw in Mexico City is El Grande Americano. So everybody runs with it. We talked about it on Wednesday too. Then I started thinking about it. I'm like, wait a minute. Why would El Grande Americano be in a tournament to face Roman Reigns when that weekend he's busy going for the Mega Championship, the championship? Guy's going to be mega champion. Why would he be in a tournament? Why would Dominic be in a tournament? He is the champion. And sure enough, literally about 6 hours after we talked about that, it comes out that neither one are in the tournament. And it makes him look like a dumb Polak. And, you know, I'll say this. I wasn't, trust me, I promise you, I swear on a stack of Bibles, I was not planning on opening with this tonight. But you know what? Let's just bang it out of the way now. Tommy D sent this in and said, you're right about Brian Alvarez. He's a moron. But why this is a good question. Why do experts like him and others get such obvious things wrong so often? And I think Brian Alvarez, listen, you know, right now, in case you have not noticed, Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer are doing what police officers do during interrogations. Good cop, bad cop. They have these arguments and debates, you know, suddenly out of nowhere, after 30 years, suddenly, you know, their balls are in a bunch with each other. No, they realize that, okay, you know, let's face it, a lot of Dave Meltzer's kissing of AEW, you know, is just turning people off. So we'll get Brian Alvarez to be kind of a little bit of a balance there. It's obvious. It's not stupid. It's a good formula. But why do you get so many things wrong so often and you're supposed to be the experts? Well, I'll tell you why. In my opinion, this is just my opinion. That's what I do. I opine. They're more concerned about just getting a story out there. Because Brian Alvarez, okay, I'm no genius. A lot of you out there, no disrespect, you're not geniuses either. How is it that all of us could fucking say, wait a minute, why would El Grande Americano and Dominic be in a tournament if they're going to fight each other for the championship? Why does it take everyday folk like you and me to figure that out? But these motherfuckers put this shit out because they got to get the story out there. It's not, let me use common sense. Half, and this is true, half of what Meltzer and Brian Alvarez put out there could be avoided and debunked if you just took a step back and used common sense. Dave Meltzer still is in fucking ratings denial about the Netflix stuff, calling me a fraudster. My fucking niece works in the city and works with Netflix as an account there and works in the advertising company. And because it goes against what he wrote in his fucking Bible, that everybody else is wrong, they're a liar, they're a fraudster. The guy could never be wrong. When was the last time you ever heard him say, I'm sorry, I was wrong? There's always an excuse for the wrongness. These motherfuckers are more concerned about get the story out there. Let's put it this way. If the dumbest, most brain dead, I'm only hired by WWE because of some DEI program, if some fucking dumb moron works at WWE and calls Brian Alvarez and says, hey, listen, or AEW, hey, listen, Dave, Brian Danielson's going to eat meat. My rumors tell me that CM Punk's going to have a drink. Instead of trying to like confirm it, no, my sources tell me, blah, 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 blah. If it smells like shit, tastes like shit, looks like shit, and it sounds like shit, why do you report it anyway? Because someone gave it to me. That's what it is. Anybody could say. The best was last year. The best was last year. We just talked about it. When Brock Lesnar returned after Cody Rhodes successfully regained the WWE Championship from John Cena. Brock Lesnar returns, and what happens? The people who are infatuated with Janelle Grant or infatuated with hating Vince McMahon all come out of the woodwork and say WWE roster is very upset at Brock Lesnar's return. Is that Dave Meltzer's got to take it one step further and say, I've talked to women. And that's kind of funny in itself, but I talked to women within the WWE, and one told me that they're privately disgusted. Have you ever heard anybody use that phrase, privately disgusted? I'm privately disgusted. This is what we're dealing with. I mean, Ric Flair is getting a lot of heat this weekend because Ric Flair basically threw his girlfriend Wendy under the bus and cut a promo on her on social media. And, everybody's going after Ric Flair like, wow, that's fucked up. He's like, I knew you would come back to me. Now, 15 years ago, old Don Tony would have gone on X and say, no, Rick is not talking about Wendy. He just happened to post a picture of her. He was talking about cancer. Cancer came back and, like, oh, where were you? I was waiting for you. I knew you would come back. That's the old DT talking. But all these people just, man, everybody says, I wonder what wrestling's going to be like 5 years from now. I wonder what wrestling's going to be like 5-10 years from now when Dave Meltzer is no longer an issue. Ric Flair is no longer an issue. And a bunch of others out there are no longer annoying. It's kind of like you have mosquito bites and you keep scratching them, and 9 months go by and you still got the sores because you keep scratching it. And just like when you think it's about to go away, you scratch it again. And it's like, motherfucker, I can't get rid of these. Sooner or later, we're going to find the cream. The cream's going to come. And trust me, in about 6 months, when you see Fade and Wrestle Ops and all these other pricks out there that, all they do is make ad revenue for posting everybody else's shit, including my history show, you watch what happens in 6 months, where you now have to create your own content in order to make money. Oh my God, they're going to be on the street fucking spread eagle, hoping to get favors. So, anyway. Let's talk about Seth Rollins. Oh, let's talk a little bit about this guy. It's funny. I got a nasty DM. Somebody in wrestling. Kind of mad at the teaser for tonight's show because I said that Too Cold Scorpio. So, Ronnie, I hope I answered your question. Too Cold Scorpio is facing 3 to 10 years in jail, 3 years mandatory. Mr. Tony, that's how they address me. Mr. Tony, where are you getting your misinformation from? Mr. Tony. No one is saying that he's facing minimum 3 years in prison. You don't think I fucking do my research first? You don't think I don't like Too Cold Scorpio? On Patreon, we just dumped another 35 episodes of the Mass Maniac show going back almost 20 years. And there's several episodes where Too Cold Scorpio was on with yours truly and the Mass Maniac talking wrestling. Guy is a likable guy. I've always been a fan of Too Cold Scorpio. But when that incident with that trucker, I don't care if the guy was smoking. I don't care if he was jerking off in front of people. I don't care if he spit on the floor. I don't care if he used the N-word to Too Cold Scorpio. You don't turn around and suddenly start playing ninja with a fucking blade and start carving someone up like Edward Scissorhands. When you saw the cuts on that guy, that's rage. That's not self-defense. And I totally get it. I know this is unpopular, but are we going to talk to be popular? Are we going to talk to just spark emotion? Or are we going to be keep it 100? I saw Sandman and a lot of other wrestlers come public in support of Too Cold Scorpio. And rightfully so. He's their friend. He worked with them for ages. Too Cold Scorpio, I truly believe deep down inside, is a good man. He made a terrible mistake a couple of years ago. And now he pled guilty. He pled guilty. And yours truly, unlike TMZ, unlike all the other wrestling sites out there, I did some research on Missouri law. And I will reveal to you, unless you wanted me to just throw it out there now. You want me to just reveal it now? What's going on with Scorpio? Why I have this written the way it is? Because far as I can see, unless a great attorney out there or someone wants to challenge me on this is what I found about Too Cold Scorpio pleading guilty. All right. He pled guilty. Originally, he was charged with first-degree assault. Okay, first-degree assault. And that in itself would have given him a shitload more jail time. So looking at what he pled guilty to, he pled guilty to second-degree assault. And to me, I think the worst charge, armed criminal action, ACA. Do not mix it up. ACA doesn't stand for the Affordable Care Act. Armed criminal action. Would you like to know what armed criminal action is? It is an unclassified felony. It's not Class A, Class 1, Class D, whatever. It's not a classified felony. That's charged when, and this is their interpretation of law, when someone commits a felony using a deadly weapon or dangerous instrument, it carries, listen closely, it carries a mandatory prison sentence of 3 to 15 years for a first offense, and it must be served in addition to the other charge. So him pleading guilty to second-degree assault, you don't serve them at the same time. The ACA, you have to serve separately. Not only that, in big black fucking letters online, it says no early release. For a first time, this is Missouri law. For a first time ACA conviction, you are not eligible for parole. You're not eligible for probation. You're not eligible for conditional release or a suspended sentence for the first 3 years. You must serve the first 3 years. Do not pass go. Do not collect 200. He has to serve 3 years. Now, he could serve more, and he probably will, because the 3 years is in addition to the second-degree felony. Now, it's a Class D felony, I should say. What is he facing with a Class D felony? He's facing up to 7 years in jail and a $10,000 fine. So most people believe that they're not going to put more years to the ACA compared to what he could face with 7 in the Class D felony of second-degree assault. So if you look at 3 for ACA and up to 7 for the second-degree assault, he is facing 3 to 7 years in jail. Now, the only thing that I did not do, that I'm kind of mad that I should have done, was I should have researched how long he was in jail already. I don't think he was in jail that long, but obviously he'll get some credit for time served. But remember this, even if he's on good behavior, 3 years is 3 years. So at minimum, he's going to have to spend 4 to 5 years in jail, 3 for the ACA and whatever for the other. And I would think that you have to serve the Class D felony first, and then you serve the ACA. So, look, I say this with the utmost sincerity, just bringing it down a notch. Charles Skaggs, again, like I said, I've always liked him. Very likable person. Everybody in wrestling says great thing. Temper. The guy, if I remember correctly, didn't he used to bounce at the strip clubs in Florida when we used to do the Mass Maniac show? I think he was the lead bouncer for a strip club. All right, you don't fuck with Too Cold Scorpio. Trust me, you don't screw with him. But the fact that he pled guilty tells you 2 things. Tells you, number one, he was deathly afraid of being found guilty for first-degree assault. That guy could have ended up 20 years in jail. I would never post the photos here. They're way too graphic. And if you're under 18, do not even Google them. But if you have a strong stomach, look up those photos. And I don't care how much you loved his tumbleweeds in his matches. I don't care how much Flash Funk was underrated. I don't care how much you loved him in WCW or ECW. I don't care if you were friends with him outside of wrestling, if you grew up, if you drove up and down the towns with him. This was a terrible mistake, and he pled guilty. So now he is facing, his sentence, and he'll be sentenced, I believe, in October. And, this is what he is facing. So, look, again, no one out there, not even TMZ, got into this detail. But you're hearing it from me. I don't know what his total jail time will be. I think 3 to 10 is very fair. So that's what's going on. He didn't kill a guy. But look up the story, man. It's wild. And again, if you could stomach those pictures, you look at those pictures. That's rage. That's not self-defense. All right. Some people snap. You lose it. I get it. I mean, I don't know what happened that night. But still, when you see the level of, abuse and stabbing that he did, this is an entirely different level. So, I feel bad for him. I feel bad for the victim. I have no idea all the details behind it, but, thank God the guy didn't die, because he'd be facing a much different situation right now. So there you go. That's what's going on with Too Cold Scorpio. So, all right. Before we get into your questions, we talk a little Seth Rollins. My Seth Rollins problem. Seth Rollins, WWE has a problem. And the funny thing is, as we go further past TKO by in WWE, something I'm noticing more and more. I think Sheamus, it's not a coincidence. I think Sheamus is more of just got injured, whatever. But, when I did the thumbnail for this episode, this was a conversation that started on Patreon Thursday. And as we were talking more and more about it, it started to get more and more glaring that WWE truthfully has a Seth Rollins problem. And if I want to say one of the questions early on, I pose this to all of you out there. Think about this for a minute, and then you will understand how big of a problem this is. When Seth Rollins returns, whether it's tomorrow on Raw, a month from now, 2 months from now, what do you do with him? What do you do with Seth Rollins? Now, as you think about that for a minute, I will momentarily pull up the WWE roster, the current roster right now, including NXT. And as you go down this list, because trust me, I already did it once over the weekend. When you go down this list, you will start realizing almost immediately, holy fuck, they don't have much they could give him. Unless, and the most far-fetched idea I could think about is him aligning himself with Roman Reigns. I know a lot of you out there like, please, no. But when you start going down this list, it's startling. You don't want to rehash the Vision stuff. A lot of his possible opponents are now on SmackDown, and they've been there, done it. I definitely invite you to give me a good scenario like, yeah, I could see that. Look at Big Cass. I was surprised at how many people were annoyed at what I said on Monday. But some people read between the lines, say, DT, you got a point. Outside of Javon and Tozawa and Otis, like, who is Big Cass going to just beat the fuck out of because victim of circumstance? Like, you don't have a plethora of enhanced talent anymore. You don't have a plethora of sympathetic jobbers that Big Cass could just start tossing around like a salad. This guy is already in the weeds and people don't even realize it yet. And WWE has to know in the back of their mind, You can't take a guy that is most known in WWE for having a tag team with Enzo and the whole thing about the gimmick, and simply because he's 6 foot whatever and because he's got a great physical body. Like, people say, like, well, look what happened to Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre left. He came back in much different physical condition and this and that. Well, Drew McIntyre, you know, what are you going to do? You're going to bring up 3MB? Like, Drew McIntyre, you look at him, you hear him, his charisma, his promo. I mean, with all due respect, I have lobbied and loved the idea of Big Cass and Enzo returning for years. But Big Cass, if we're being honest, is a piece of wood with hair on it. The guy doesn't have this amazing charisma, and I know this sounds cold, and it's not meant to be cold. But we're all fucking hurting at some degree. He has a 10-year high. You were in the fucking AEW getting paid nicely. You overcame your addictions. You got married. You straightened out your life. We all know this story already. You know, him saying, oh, for 10 years I've this and that, and I'm back with that. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit. And I'm not saying it to try to be edgy or vulgar. This is going to fizzle out quicker than an Alka-Seltzer in water. It's just not going to work. But the Seth Rollins thing, like, really, I ask you all, what do you do with Seth Rollins right now? Now, before we go down the roster page, okay, Rastaman, before we go down the roster page, I did a little more research. I'm going to spit some numbers to you right now that might surprise you. I know Seth Rollins has had some injuries. There's no question about it. But what I'm about to show you, you're going to realize WWE has a big Seth Rollins problem. Okay? Since WrestleMania 40, not last year, 41, not this year, 42, since WrestleMania 40, 2.5 years. You know how many matches Seth Rollins has had one-on-one? My friends, now it's not an extremely low number. Come on, I'm not saying that. But for 2.5 years, guys, how many singles matches do you think Seth Rollins has had? 2.5 years. I'll tell you, you don't have to guess it, 30. He's had 30. And the funny thing about it is 7 of them happened with Braun Breaker over the last month and a half. You take away Braun Breaker, Seth Rollins has had 23 matches since WrestleMania 40. That's 2.5 years, 23 matches. Just for the record, and here's also, too, I want you to think about this. Now, we're only talking about singles matches because he ain't got no faction right now. There ain't no faction unless he's going to return with the fucking Street Profits and someone else, which I don't even know if that's what is that? We're being honest. Seriously. But you look at Seth Rollins' singles opponents over the last 2.5 years. This is who he has faced. Braun Breaker 7 times. Dominic Mysterio 4 times. 1/3 of his matches in 2.5 years have been those two guys. Then you got CM Punk 3 times, LA Knight and Bronson Reed 2 times, Roman Reigns, obviously, SummerSlam, Montez Ford 1 time, Austin Theory, Gunther, Cody Rhodes, Penta, Jey Uso, Finn Balor, Drew McIntyre, Chad Gable, and Sami Zayn, all 1 match apiece. That's what he has had. Now, this is even more startling. Seth Rollins debuted on the main roster in 2012 as part of the Shield. That was November. Okay? And my fucking YouTube just crashed. It's nothing a reload can't fix. There we go. All right. Let me just reset this. Yeah, sometimes we get little periodic crashes. We're back. The Shield debuted in November. So we really can't count 2012 because for 11 of those 12 months, Seth Rollins was in NXT. Okay, fine. So let's go from 2013 to the present. I'm going to tell you how many matches Seth Rollins has had year by year since 2013. Some of these numbers are going to blow you the fuck away. Now, I get it. Before anybody says anything, well, the Shield, 3-man, he didn't have to wrestle as much in a match. He had, Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns. Fine. But still, gives you an idea how much he was on television. Listen to this. Listen closely. 2013, 214 matches. 2014, 197 matches. 2015, 176 matches. 2016, 118 matches. 2017, 153 matches. 2018, 160 matches. 2019, 148 matches. 2020, remember pandemic, 53 matches. 2021, 53 matches. 2022, 126 matches. 2023, 106 matches. Okay? Now, TKO buys WWE. 2024, 23 matches. 2025, 20 matches. 2026, 18 matches. That's not singles matches. That is division. That is all the tag matches. He is in over 3 years. The most matches he had in 1 year was only 23. You don't think WWE has a big Seth Rollins problem? For 3 years leading up to this point, he only averaged 24 matches a year. So this is a guy that's been working an extremely light schedule for 3 straight years. Now what do you do with him? So for everyone out there, just for a moment, I'm putting on the screen the WWE Superstars page. Now, I invite anyone who's in the chat room, if you see a name that pops up that you think Seth Rollins could, have a legit feud with right now or the foreseeable future, you throw it out there as we go through this list. And don't pick a name simply because the name's available. We're talking about arguably the top 3 wrestlers in that company, top 5 for sure. I'm going to go through this list very quickly. CM Punk, ain't happening. Roman Reigns, done. Chad Gable, why? Baron Corbin, are you kidding me? And we'll include NXT. Actually, we won't include NXT because NXT, you could choose anybody in NXT. We'll leave NXT out. All right, now we go down this list a little bit more. Akira Tozawa, Angelo Dawkins, Austin Theory, Baron Corbin, Humberto Carrillo, Bravo Americano, Bronson Reed, the Creed brothers, Brooks Jensen, I think he's still NXT, Carmelo Hayes. You go down this list, there isn't anybody. Cody Rhodes, Danhausen, Damian Priest, Dominic Mysterio, Drew McIntyre, the Viking Raiders, El Grande Americano, Ethan Page, Finn Balor, Gunther, Grayson Waller's back in NXT, Ilya Dragunov, Jacob Fatu, JD McDonough, the Usos, Joaquin Wilde, Joe Hendry, who else? Johnny Gargano, Kevin Owens, LA Knight, Logan Paul, who's obviously out. Kaiser obviously he's busy right now. You go down this list, there is nobody. There is nobody. Obafemi, Omos, R-Truth, Pete Dunne, Randy Orton, Ray Americano, Ray Phoenix, Rey Mysterio, Ricky Saints, Sami Zayn, Rusev, Royce Keys. He ain't gonna fight himself, obviously. The Miz. Wait, that's it. And Trick Williams. Hopefully nobody got dizzy with that. Trick Williams. What What do you do with this guy? What do you do with this guy? Be honest. Be honest. What do you do with this guy? This guy is getting paid top money. And up to this point, the best they could do, yes, there's been injuries, but the best they could do for 3 straight years is less than 24 matches. What do you do with him now? I would love for someone to tell me. I don't think this is something that people really thought about before. Like, you think about, the only thing I could think of is he somehow aligns himself with Roman Reigns. What do you do with this guy? And even if you pick one person, because Lost But Found just said Ricky Saints, I think it'd be a fun couple of matches with Ricky. And then what? And then what? You're talking about a guy that you're spending millions on. Millions. Can you think of any opponent that he could main event a premium live event right now? The only thing I could think of is somehow he's going to get aligned with Roman Reigns. Or he puts together his own new faction with the Street Profits, with what really would amount to what? My friends, I'm not trying to stir the shit up, but if we're being 100 for a minute, WWE has a Seth Rollins problem. What do you do with Seth Rollins? And I don't think anybody has that answer. I don't think anybody has that answer. Listen, there's nobody that you could just shit out of your ass and suddenly, oh yeah, he could be a great feud for Seth Rollins. There really isn't anybody. Like, whose titles does he go for? There's no titles. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. And I think it's a big concern. I think it's a huge concern on WWE's part. So, all right. Let me get into a couple of super shout outs. Why am I getting a little bit of a blank over here? So we could get rid of the Charles Skaggs stuff because we talked about that shit already. Why is my fucking mouse doing like weird shit now? This kind of sucks. Hold on 1 second. That sucks. All right. It'll have to do. It'll have to do. Let me get into a couple of comments here, a couple of super shout outs if you don't mind. See, the Brian Alvarez one works, but nothing else does. Let's see, maybe this will work. No. Okay. All right, let me get out of this. Jim Kahn, thank you for the 5 spot, my friend. There was a time in 2019 when he was thinking Seth Rollins is going to get overpushed and benefited from indie cred and turning heel at the right time. And it's true. It is absolutely true. You go back and you look at the number of matches. So you go back to 2019. The guy had 150 matches in 2019. You know, the Shield stuff, I get it. You know, obviously they were the focal point of WWE for a while. But when you now realize that they have been using him sparingly already, the injuries, now think about this too. If this guy didn't have injuries, this might have even looked worse. At least the injuries forced him to take some time off and kind of gave him some new life feuding with the Vision. But if he didn't have these injuries, what the hell would have happened? Makes you wonder. I mean, these injuries probably prolonged his WWE career a little bit. And I tell you this much too. It's a shame. It's a shame that WWE Creative put him in this situation. And he's not the only one. Because you got to think to yourself, a year or two from now, there's going to be other names. You're going to sit there and say, who the hell do you put them up with? This is not good. This is not good at all. Lost But Found, we talked about Chelsea Green's injury a little bit earlier. I'm with you. I could see her wearing a mask. I think the half mask is definitely, and listen, with Chelsea Green's look, I guarantee you she's on Etsy right now having a custom mask all dollied up and everything, just, you know, to match her attire. I think Chelsea Green will be fine. I think she'll be okay. Plus, since she just won that championship, I don't think there's going to be any rush to insist that she drops that title very quickly. So, and you want to know something? This is where the United States Women's Championship and the Intercontinental Women's Championship are a good reason to have them, because now you have, other championships that could be a little bit of a focal point. I mean, let's be honest. Ever since Liv Morgan won the Women's Championship at WrestleMania, 3 months went by and she didn't defend it once. When you have other singles titles available, you could focus and mix and match. I mean, you look at even when you saw Ruka. It felt like Sol Ruka was the one that was the focus of the women's division since WrestleMania until she dropped the title to Raquel Rodriguez. So the focus doesn't have to be really, really set on Chelsea Green. Tiffany Stratton's going to have to amp it up a little bit. So, Los Profan also says, do we think we're going to get brother versus brother in the tournament with Penta facing Roman in the end? Yes, I think we will. I think, especially that some of these matches are going to happen in Mexico. I think the Mexican fans would love to see Penta and Rey Fénix. I would do that on Mexican television. I wouldn't necessarily do it on WWE television. But here's the thing, though. Based on the tournament, tomorrow on the Don Tony Show, we will get into the tournament matches a little bit deeper. And who knows, we may even see one of those matches go down on Raw tomorrow. But if I remember correctly, the way it's positioned, Rey Fénix and Penta could be in the finals. And if you're going to do the finals, you got to do that on Raw. You could do it on SmackDown, but I personally think you're going to do it on Raw. Because remember, the winner is going to challenge Roman. But remember Roman's schedule. If you tune into Wednesday Night Dynamite this past Wednesday, Roman's schedule is all fucked up from now to Money in the Bank. And if LA Knight is going to face Roman Reigns at Money in the Bank, that build is going to be horrible. Because you're going to have every 2 weeks Roman not being on. So unless they add 1 or 2 extra dates, which I personally think they have to do with Roman Reigns for LA Knight, that build is going to suck. It's going to be painful for the next 2 months. So I would think, especially when you look at Roman's schedule, and I think I have a picture of Roman's schedule here. You look at Roman's schedule, all right, yeah, here it is. Here's Roman's schedule. If you look at Roman's schedule, I can't put it on the screen, but here we go. September 14th is the match against the winner of that tournament. Roman's not on Raw the week before. Roman is on Raw Friday, August 28th, which happens to be a taping because that Monday's Raw was canceled. I think it was supposed to be in Louisiana. So Roman is not going to be on television for the week prior to set this up. Just think about that. The week before Money in the Bank and the week before that championship match in Mexico, Roman is not on. Am I missing something there? Who do I think needs to turn heel in the WWE right now? Oh, I don't know. That's such a loaded question. I mean, right now, yeah, everybody keeps saying Cody Rhodes. And yes, I did see on Friday SmackDown what Cody Rhodes says that he doesn't have to be Mr. Nice Guy anymore. And right away, everybody's like, you see, he's going to turn heel. It's the fucking annual tradition. I'm going to have an aneurysm with that shit. You know, he throws, and this is done by design. This is done by design that this is no more Mr. Nice Guy. Now I'm going to be just as much of an asshole as Randy Orton because of what Randy Orton did to me. That's all this is. It's just, everybody says Cody Rhodes. I mean, honestly, I would say Solo Sikoa, should turn. But then it's weird because if he turns and helps Roman Reigns is supposed to be a baby face. So if he turns, who's he actually helping? Jacob Fatu? He's a baby face. The Usos are supposed to be baby faces. I like Solo Sikoa as the used car salesman. I like what he's doing right now. I actually think it's hilarious. So right now, I can't say anybody. People saying, Stephanie McMahon should turn heel and align with Dominic. Why? I mean, if you really just take a step back, why would you do that? Some people think Sol Ruka should turn heel because she's a little bit shoddy, so she can kind of like pull back a little bit on Arsenal. I think that's ridiculous. Right now, I would say nobody. I don't think WWE has a heel problem. I think WWE creative. And you know what's weird? We're starting to see the pattern ever since TKO bought WWE. We're starting to see schedules really, really dramatically get cut down for some wrestlers, and it's not always because of injury. It's pretty wild to see how much some people's schedules are being pulled back. And that kind of makes you understand why TKO is doing these pay cuts. You know, we talked about it with Sheamus. We talked about it with others. We talked about it with the New Day. We talked about it with other rumored names. You look at their matches prior to the TKO purchase, and then afterwards, if I'm TKO, I turn around and say, why am I paying this person $3 million a year to work 30 matches? And trust me, Seth Rollins is getting a shitload more. And I'll tell you something else. Something you all really need to think about, and I hope Jinder Mahal is taking notice. I hope Jinder Mahal puts a video out. Because you guys know about the bucket. We played that video a while ago when Jinder Mahal explained the bucket and how you can make extra money in the WWE with the bucket. What you're now starting to realize is that opportunities to build the bucket are dwindling dramatically. So it almost feels like TKO has eliminated a lot of house shows, eliminated a lot of things, because by doing that, you also eliminate the bucket size. And I think some people out there are able to work and want to do their shit, and they're just not being used in a way that they kind of hoped they would 2, 3, 4 years ago. And that bucket is getting small. That bucket that Jinder Mahal talks about, I don't think is very much in existence in WWE anymore. So I agree also, Lost, but found that Seth got younger stars over. But you see, Becky Lynch, you realize with Becky Lynch, there are so many women that she could fuck with still. And now they're teasing differently with Liv Morgan and others. You know, Becky Lynch is very, to me, I know this is going to sound ridiculous. I honestly think Becky Lynch is a bigger asset to WWE right now than Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is in the top 5. Seth Rollins, to me, has been the MVP of WWE for the last 10 years. I think him, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, last couple of years especially, I don't think when Roman says, oh, you know, I left this, you know, for all you guys to build it up and you didn't do nothing with it. I disagree with that because Roman has been back and it still not, it doesn't feel like it's been built up. I think Seth Rollins is arguably the MVP of the WWE even the last 5 years, or he's in the top 3. But now you say to yourself, what the hell you do with him? I think Becky Lynch could be utilized much better right now than Seth Rollins. Again, unless they align Seth Rollins with Roman Reigns or they build a new faction with the Street Profits. What do you call them? Really? What's the purpose? What's the purpose? To go after the vision? Like you think about it, you start the faction, okay, now what? To go up against Judgment Day? Ooh, Dominic and Jada McDonough. By the way, all those reports that Dominic is upset about his Raw push, that's bullshit. They saw fans complaining, so they're like, oh, they're supposed to just tell me that Dominic is frustrated. No, Dominic knows this is just to buy some time because he's about to feud with a Grande Americano. They weren't going to put him in this massive, deep WWE feud when he's on the verge to start this big Triple Mania run that leads into the fall months. That's all this was. We can't put you too deep in the weeds right now in the main roster because we're going to focus on AAA. That's all this is. Dominic Mysterio is not on the rag. He's not upset. These are just morons that are reading the internet and say, well, if the fans are upset, Dominic must be upset. Oh, my sources tell me Dominic is upset. I think if Dominic is upset, he probably would cut a promo and a video somewhere. Dominic don't hold back. So don't buy it. Don't buy it. WrestleMess. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for the 10 spot. Could I see WWE putting Money in the Bank in Breaker's hands for the purpose of spoiling Oba's moment? I thought he said Oba's moment, and kickstarting that long-term feud with Nuclear Heat. And number 2, Seth is not a main eventer without a title now. Perfect. What do you do with Seth Rollins? You can't, think about this too, you can't even bring him in NXT. Who's he going to do, feud with Tony D'Angelo? At least when he showed up on NXT that one time, he fought Braun Breaker. Give a little rub to Braun Breaker. Remember when AJ Styles showed up briefly? You could see you're going there with one person in mind when they would show up there. Even when the New Day showed up for a little while, it was, okay, we want to bring this person in just to give a little bit extra to a particular person. I can't figure out what you do with Seth Rollins. The only two scenarios is all I could come up with. And the funny thing is, some of what we're seeing with Liv Morgan right now and Becky Lynch might somehow, in some way, shape, or form, end up with Seth Rollins having a match with Jaden McDonough or Dominic Mysterio again. You might even see some nonsense. Don't get me wrong, but you might even see something like Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch versus Dominic and Liv Morgan. I know that sounds ridiculous, but really, when you start dissecting this, what do you do with Seth Rollins? It's a question that nobody's asking, but we asked. And as far as Braun Breaker, Money in the Bank, I love the idea. The problem that I have with it right now is that Braun Breaker could get a title shot simply because he wants one. You know, like he's in that position that if Adam Pearce wants to book a match, it is official, then it happens. Obafemi, the same thing. You know, Obafemi is the top of the roster right now. You know, not the number one guy, but you know what I mean. Like, why does it take, he won a King of the Ring tournament that's the only way he could get a title match. You know, people have had title matches because they wanted one. You know, so Braun Breaker winning the briefcase would be a great prop because he could tease not only on Raw, but he could tease SmackDown too. And sure, could you imagine if Obafemi tells Adam Pearce, I won King of the Ring, I want my title shot. And Adam Pearce makes it official, and then Braun Breaker ruins that opportunity. I mean, you could absolutely see that. But the thing is, we need to know who the champions are at the time and why. Because a lot of people think, even with the women's Money in the Bank briefcase, a lot of people think Roxanne Perez. A lot of people think Roxy could win the briefcase. But you got to remember, who's going to be the champions at the time? It may not be Liv Morgan. It may not even be someone that people want to see. Now with Rhea Ripley's injury and being out, many people think until the Royal Rumble, you know, you start thinking, hey, Money in the Bank is nice and everything, but, you know, if you remember, Royal Rumble winner and Elimination Chamber winner are the ones who get the title shots at WrestleMania. So whoever wins the briefcase, if they're going to get a championship, they're probably going to be the reigning champion going into WrestleMania. They're not going to cash in at WrestleMania unless there's a major swerve. So it's a little too early. I like Sami Zayn with the Money in the Bank idea. There's so many. Listen, you could have Sami Zayn fucking cash in. There's definitely ways to go. The Money in the Bank briefcase is still fresh enough that we can find people. You know, we could go down the roster, and I think we could easily come up with 5 men and 5 women that we think would be great as Money in the Bank winners. So that gimmick has not jumped the shark yet. And you think about the briefcase. You get a title match without a storyline. Get a title match without a tournament. You could literally hold that fucking briefcase. Somebody gets injured. Oh shit, what are we going to do now? Oh, we could have that person cash in and put the shift somewhere else. That Money in the Bank briefcase is kind of like when you're playing cards and you got a joker. You got a joker and you can use the joker any way you want. That's kind of what the briefcase is. So there's definitely options. Without a doubt, there's definitely options. Dave, what's up, Dave? Do I think AAA would beat AEW if WWE put it live on Wednesdays? Honestly, no. AAA is a fun show. But if you ever watch an episode of AAA on YouTube, you know, they're in obviously Latin America too, but if you watch it, it's not first of all, it's not like a 2-hour show that you're going to be glued on, clearly. it's not. It's an international show that they have expanded to the American audience or international audience too. It's not. It's still a Mexican company, but it's stretched enough where we will find interest in it. You use certain names. I fucking popped when I saw Damien 666. I had the pleasure of working with Damien, picking him up at the airport a couple of times, riding with him. You guys have seen photos. Damien 666, funny motherfucker, man. Him and Halloween were awesome. Remember, me and the Masked Maniac booked Sabu and Jimmy Snuka versus Mexico's Most Wanted. It was covered 4 pages in a Mexican magazine. I've showed you guys on this show before. I am a big fan of Damien. And to see, them throwing him out there, I thought it was great. But for the casual wrestling fan, I don't think AAA would be that much of a draw. No, I think AEW would, I don't want to say destroy AAA, but I even think if AAA went head-to-head with Impact, I think AAA has the possibility of winning the first week, but I think on a weekly basis, Impact would even beat AAA. It's not a bad company. It's just not something that's going to be must-see TV for casual wrestling fans and fans that are not, from that area of the world. So that's just my opinion. So, and shout out to Brent. He is a new member of the family. Much love to you, my friend. Check out Thursday's Patreon show. It's streams for our channel members here. It was almost 4 hours show, but we got in some great topics. Definitely some great topics. I do want to do a quick plug, and I promise you guys you'll appreciate this. I put up the history show this morning for this week, and obviously one of the biggest highlights, and ironically, it is 27 years ago today. Chris Jericho's debut on Monday Night Raw, confrontation with The Rock. Funny thing is, I watch young wrestling fans today, and they're like, Chris Jericho's debut is not the greatest of all time because The Rock made him look foolish. Did they understand what Chris Jericho's character was when he first came in? It was supposed to have The Rock embarrass him. That's what it was designed to do. It wasn't to, ruin his gimmick. But the reason why I want to share with you also is I'm going to share with you right now 2 minutes of audio. Because I know not all of you tune into the history show, but this, I promise you will appreciate. It is another reason why Triple H and WWE do not do media scrums. I know we saw a little thing on SummerSlam, that's different, but there's a reason why you don't see media scrums. I want to set this up. I promise you this, to me, in my opinion, and I've said this for years, this is the holy grail of media scrum trolling. As far as WWE goes. The year is 2019. AEW is new. Vince McMahon does a conference call earlier in the year, and Fox had just signed a TV deal with WWE. So there's rumors that WWE is going to get a little more edgier, this, that, remember Retribution, all this other shit. So Vince in a conference call says, we're not going to do blood and guts. We're sophisticated, we have better writers, we're not going to do that crap. And obviously AEW fans got pissed off, AEW got pissed off. They actually trademarked the term blood and guts, which was Vince's phrase. And, a lot of people were angry about that. So now we have NXT TakeOver Toronto. Main event is Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole. 3 stages of hell match, best 2 out of 3, get the street fight, cage match, whatever. So cage match has a lot of props. And on the top of the cage is barbed wire. And the barbed wire is there as a sign not to use it, but you can't get out. It's like when you walk down the street and you see a building and there's barbed wire on the fence. That barbed wire is not meant for you to go, can I touch it? How sharp is it? No, the idea is a deterrent. It's supposed to be so you don't climb unless you're a moron. So it's the deterrent. So the 3-stage, the fight with Cole and Gargano was awesome. So now the event is over. Triple H does a conference call. Then he does a media scrum. There was 2. Conference call and a media scrum. Mike Johnson, a PW insider. Now, I give Mike Johnson credit these days But back in 2019, this was the learning lesson for him. Him in 2019 is more of what Meltzer is right now towards a lot of people in AEW. Mike Johnson at that time tried to play gotcha with Triple H. And WWE and Triple H know when you do these conference calls where people are on the phone, they'll make you wait 3 hours before you ask your question. You will not be one of the first ones they answer because they'll make you wait. And he did that to Mike Johnson. And I want you to hear the call. I'm not clickbaiting. I'm not exaggerating. To me, this is the holy grail of WWE Media Scrum. Listen to this confrontation between Triple H and Mike Johnson. You will feel bad for Mike Johnson. Pay attention to the executives in the room with Triple H in the background. Pay very close attention.
Thank you. That's star one for questions over the phone line. Then we do have Mike Johnson with PW Insider.
Been on hold since the conference call, right?
I never left. I've been here the whole time. Obviously a really good show. Thank you for taking the question. The thought process behind as you mentioned, the 3 stages of hell. Obviously a lot of weapons, a lot of violence, even some barbed wire. I have to ask, your father-in-law in the last stockholders conference call mentioned that the company would not go towards blood and guts and things of that. He had said that WWE had graduated from that. But there were obviously, even though there wasn't any really heavy blood loss here, there were obviously allusions to that sort of style with the barbed wire on the top of the cage and the heavy weaponry being used. So how do you rectify between one and the other?
When you say there was very little blood, you mean none?
It looked like there was some blood on the back of Adam Cole. No, it looked like there was some blood on the back of Adam Cole's back when the match was over.
Honest to God, you're going to call me out on that? Like he gets scraped on the table and like you were digging. No, honest to God, you're digging deep, reaching for this one. I got to tell you guys, there was nothing in that cage except for the barbed wire at the top, which didn't get used. Did not get used. There was nothing in that cage that you haven't been seeing on TV in WWE for consistently. So to say this is some kind, man, you guys got to get off your conspiracy theory stuff. You're digging hard, but you're making yourself look stupid.
I'm not trying to create.
I just mean everybody in general, man. You're digging hard for something that ain't there.
Here's my point: is that Vince just said we're not going to go that route. We go left, and NXT goes a little right. My question.
No.
My question here is how do you reckon? Okay.
Yeah, what did he say? Blood and guts. Blood. Did you see blood? Intentional blood.
No, I did not. But I didn't hear that. But the inference.
You just answered the question. You just answered the question. There wasn't any. So what you're digging for isn't there. Like, that's the ridiculous thing of this. There was nothing in there that you had not seen. Barbed wire as a deterrent from people leaving the cage did not get used. Nobody intentionally bled. There was no blood anywhere. There were chairs. There were kendo sticks. It's all stuff. They were different kind of pliers, weren't needle nose, but I guess if you want to go there, maybe those were different. But like, what else was different? What was the gore and the guts that we went to that is making you say this was a different turn?
No, I'm asking where do you rectify the idea that he said we're not going to go that way, and then you tease it. I'm talking about the tease more than the actual physicality. Like, is there a conversation? Is there a point where you cannot go any further? That's my.
Yeah, we didn't go any further. Like a tease, we didn't. Man, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. You're digging.
We're going.
Cutting out, Mike. He hung up.
Can you hear me now?
Got you now. Yeah.
All right. What did you not hear? So
I think the part where you were saying, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I don't know, but we'll just go on to the next question.
I'll be one of the first to admit over the last couple of years. Sorry. That's part of the show. That's why I do the history show. All shit like that gets lost and forgotten. Lost media. No. That to me is the holy grail. And listen, to be fair, Mike Johnson, and I've said this for a few years now, Mike Johnson is one of the more reputable journalists now, and he's come a very long way. There were many years that I hated that fucking Hobbit, but I will even admit that's probably the low point of his journalistic career. He's turning around, and I listen, I don't think he'll ever hear what I'm saying right now, but believe me, do not judge Mike Johnson in 2026 based on that. But that, to me, is the holy grail. That is the gotcha. That's what people try to do. Even Meltzer's tried it a few times. And listen, when Triple H, I know he's not the most popular person in the room right now, but when when his wording, adds a syllable, that's when you know there's a problem. Where he says it wasn't there, he doesn't say there. He says it wasn't there. It wasn't there. That's when you know you're fucked. Oh my God. And the people in the background laughing. Mike Johnson stood on hold for 2+ hours to be able to ask that question. He thought he was doing AEW justice, blood and guts. Instead of referencing Vince by Vince McMahon, you say your father-in-law. It just, everything about it. And trust me, there's other clips like that, but to me, that's the holy grail. So I recommend you download this week's history show. There's others on there. So, oh man, it was legitimate laughter. So. All right, let's get into more questions, shall we? How long we've gone so far? We've only gone 1 hour and 10 minutes, so we have some time. I figure we'll go about 2 hours. I don't think we need to overstretch it. Tomorrow, we got a loaded show to do, obviously. And I saw someone ask earlier about my thoughts on AJ Styles' son in the GCW incident. I will answer that in a moment. Tristan wants to know what I think of Roman Reigns trying to kill Braun at Great Balls of Fire. Ramming the ambulance into the semi-truck. Stupid. It was all stupid. And the funny thing is, that wasn't even a pandemic. You know, it's funny because you go back to the early days when someone was trying to murder Roman. And I remember when Braun flipped the ambulance over and all that shit. But, if you remember the one where Roman's in the back, and I think it was Kayla Braxton, and she's like, Roman, watch out! And that wasn't even pandemic. You would have thought that that's you got to improvise pandemic, no live crowds, you take advantage, you do some special effects. That was even before that, so I didn't like it. Someone asked earlier about AJ Styles and his son. All right, I'll keep this quick. For those that don't know the controversy, AJ Styles' son wrestled at GCW this weekend. And the big controversy coming out of it is that AJ Styles' son did not help put together or take apart the ring. Didn't set up the chairs, nothing. Somebody called him out on it. And AJ Styles came to the defense of his son and said, my son was brought there to wrestle, not to put up rings. And obviously, everybody that, has put up a ring, from AJ Francis and others, have to put their 2 cents in there. I put up every fucking ring when I was in NXT and all this other stuff. And here's my honest take about it, just to summarize it. AJ Styles' son is still new to wrestling. And I know some people are going to say, well, it's AJ Styles' job to educate his son that you do this, you do that, you do this. It is not mandatory that you have to put up a ring or take it down. Here's the God honest truth. When I got involved with indie wrestling, whether it was Jersey All Pro, his Fat Frank's school that I was involved with, Jersey Championship, I don't remember the name of the promotion, but that was the only time that I ever helped put a ring up. Even when I worked VPW, Mass Maniac, USA Pro Wrestling, UXW, VPW never put up a ring, never took it down. I was never asked. If I was asked, I absolutely would have done it. My thinking is wrestlers, especially young guys in GCW, that noticed that AJ Styles' son didn't help with the ring, maybe one of you should have put him aside and say, hey, could you help us put some chairs out and stuff like that? And, and you let him know, like, this is something that, we all do to help give back when you're new. Someone's got to be like that person that even though it's his son, he's still new to the business. And there's little nuances that you could only experience being there. And I personally think AJ Styles is just defending his son because his son is so new to the business. This is gonna, this shit gets viral. And AJ Styles doesn't want his son to come across as this prissy Karen that putting rings together is too good for him. I just think he didn't know. I just think being so nervous, being on the card and everything like that, I just think it didn't even cross his mind. I don't think he just sat there and watched everyone else put a ring together. I think all the indie wrestlers, fans, okay, but indie wrestlers that criticized AJ Styles' son or AJ Styles, I think you need to take a step back and think for a minute that AJ Styles is trying to be a father and to cushion the blow. And I think AJ Styles' son, this is a learning experience. But I think if that pissed off people in GCW so bad, one of you motherfuckers should have put him aside and say, hey, listen, you want to help us, put some chairs out? And, we all do that. It's a way to give back a little bit. And if he turns around and says, nah, I don't want to do that, that's different. But none of you motherfuckers go to Twitter. You go to X. And you write your shit on X. You see that he's not putting the ring to, he's not doing. Nobody goes up to him and says, "Hey, could you help us a little bit?" I mean, don't get me wrong. I would help with guardrails. I'd lift XPW. I would help bring the guardrail. Fucking me and Slash went to Home Depot and bought all the wood and everything to rebuild the fucking Eagles Nest in the ECW arena because they were going to have a heavy metal band performing in intermission. We went to fucking Home Depot. I didn't have to do any of that. You do it because you want to do it. You want to help. You want to contribute. Not every person thinks automatically, and maybe AJ Styles' son, because he's never put up a ring before, was kind of nervous, like, what if I put it up wrong? I personally thought that this was a non-story, and to see how much it blew up, I felt bad for AJ Styles' son. I thought AJ Styles was doing the right thing for being a father for a son who's very, very young in this business, and I think I don't want to single out AJ Francis because he's been killing it in TNA and I've been really, really supportive of him. But I think him and others should have taken a step back and say, this is a kid. He's a kid. He didn't know any better. You just let it go, man. I mean, there's a couple of indie guys out there that are trying desperately hard to get AJ Styles to acknowledge them. And boy, they look fucking ridiculous. So that's my take on it. You don't have to put a ring up. You do it because you want to help, because you feel like you're part of the family. You feel like you're contributing a little bit extra. You're not obligated to do it. But when you see everybody else, I'll tell you all a very quick story about me and my father. It's something that I swear on my family. I'll never do another show again if I'm lying. I swear on my family that I brought this story up to my father last year. My father almost started crying. And this is something that stuck with me my entire life, okay? Back in 1988, okay? I'm 19 years old, do the math. Back in 1988, I was hanging out with my friends, Juniper Park. I come home, it's about 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's about 90, 95 degrees out. And my father is working on his fence outside in front of our house. I pull up, I get out of the car, see my father. Hey, Dad, how you doing? All right. And my father's sweating buckets, and he's doing something with the fence. And I walked right past him, and I went into the house, air conditioned, got myself a nice drink, sat down and watched TV. My father walked in, walked right past me, sweating, dirt all over his face, just you saw it, and went and got himself a towel. And he went back outside and it didn't hit me. It didn't even cross my mind for about an hour. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh. I went outside. I said, Dad, you need any help? He's like, no, I'm done. And that stuck with me my entire life. Last year, since 1988, I never brought that story up. Since last year, I was talking to my dad, having a very serious convo because my mother's been in very poor health. I said, Dad, I said, there's a story I have to tell you that it's been on my mind since 1988 that I had to apologize for. And I told him the story, and he remembered it. He remembered it. And I said, Dad, be honest. I said, were you mad that I didn't come out? He's like, I was mad that you just walked right past me and went into the house. And I said, if I asked you if you needed help, would you have taken it? He says, no. If I would have just said, Dad, you need some help? No. Okay, you sure? Okay. To this day, I swear to God, whenever I go to my dad's house, if I see him doing something, Dad, you need help? You want me to do this? You want me to do that? And sometimes, even if he says no, I still help. Point is, you don't have to do it. But read the room. And if you see that somebody may need a little help, offer it. Offer it. And if they say, no, that's all right, you don't know what you're doing, or, we got it, at least you offered. I'm not going to lie. I offered in the past, and I was told, no, we're good. I'm good. No, I'm good. I would help in other ways. Ride some people from the airport, take people to a hotel, do things in the back, paperwork, stuff online. You always try to contribute in some way, shape, or form. But I think the AJ Styles thing was totally unnecessary, and I think people should have given the kid a break. And for the people that got really, really uber over the top with this, I don't even want to say touch grass. Like, really, get a life, man. Better yet, have a son. Have a son, and then let somebody go after your son when they're very, very young and they're still a little naive and haven't read the room yet, and you see how you feel. And you'll probably remember AJ Styles. So, no, AJ Styles, listen, I want to be clear. AJ Francis defended the kid, but in doing so, listen, I remember what AJ Francis said. He brought up how when he went to NXT, he put up and took down every single ring, but in the Indies, he didn't have to do any of that. You don't have to give your career resume. Don't beat around the bush. Just fucking say, look, kid's new. He probably didn't know. Somebody should have said something to him, or, hey, you're not forced to do it. Why do you have to put a career resume next to everything? That's what I hate about X. A lot of fucking people do that. Instead of just coming straight out and just saying, hey, listen, give the kid a break. He's new, he's this, he didn't know, now he knows. Maybe someone should have gone up to him. Listen, if I was him, I probably would have thought the same way. No, you got to say, when I was in NXT, I put up every ring and took down every ring. And then when I went on the Indies, I didn't have to do this. Nobody gives a fuck about your career right now and what you did. That's my problem with AJ Francis and others. You got to always put yourself over when you're trying to put someone else over. All right, this isn't a wrestling match where you want to make your opponent look better along with yourself. Take a step back and make it all about his son. Make it all about his son. That's my problem with these people online, because they got to make it about themselves too. I know somebody's going to say, well, you just made it about yourself too. Yeah, where I did fucking wrong. Where I did wrong. And I should have known better. So. Time traveling says he was born in 1988. I'm getting old, man. I still got my hair, though. I just got a haircut. I still got my hair. I don't have too many wrinkles, but yeah, we're getting old, man. I watched the Yankees old timers game this weekend. I fucking got choked up, realizing, holy shit, someone not even the players I grew up with, but the players from recently, I'm like, oh my God, this guy debuted 30 years ago. I'm looking at baseball players that I honestly thought was still playing, and they're fucking been out of the game for 5, 6, 7 years. It's crazy. Big G was born in 82. Listen, I wish that I was born later on. I can't change the year I was born, but I could act immature as fuck to make me think I'm younger. No. It is what it is, man. You got to take it. You got to take it. You got to take chicken shit and turn it into chicken salad. You know, I don't like being this old. I don't like it. And I try not to incorporate my age to make points. I will do it if I was around at a time like the debate that I had with Conrad on X. Conrad is class. He's class. I know a lot of you think he's a shyster and all that, but Conrad is a businessman, but he's class. When he said that Roman Reigns is the most overrated champion of all time, you know, or overrated wrestler, you know, I brought up Eddie Guerrero. And we had an intelligent, friendly back and forth. When I had what I thought was going to be an intelligent back and forth with Dave Meltzer, as soon as I fucking put him in a corner, he ghosted me. He just conversation over. As soon as you get him in the corner and he feels like his pants are halfway pulled down and he's about to get the sausage up his ass, he just ghosts you. That's what he does. Remember the Flix Patrol? Remember what I said a month ago? Hey, Dave, what do you think about Flix Patrol? He didn't even answer me because he knew I figured it out. When he was bringing up the first 24 hours of Raw, trying to think there was statistics where there is none, I was like, holy fuck, this guy's looking at Flix Patrol. What he didn't understand is Flix Patrol only talks about the downloads, not the live TV. And suddenly that article disappeared. That's what that motherfucker does. At least Conrad had a friendly debate with me going back and forth. Because he's saying without Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns would be nothing. And I said, Paul Heyman is the greatest of all time. He brought Roman to the table. But Roman backed it up in the ring to show why he earned his spot at the table. And I was bringing up Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero, because he brought up how Roman was hated back in the day. I hated Roman too. God rest Kev's soul. You guys go back to the DTKC show days. How many years were Kev and I debating about Roman Reigns? He fucking saw something in him and I didn't. You know, he had faith in him and I didn't for a long time. But my debate with Conrad was, he was saying how hated Roman Reigns was, and then Paul Heyman came around. And I said, well, what about Eddie Guerrero? Eddie Guerrero was hated beyond belief when he first came into the WWF. Eddie sucks. He got released. And then the world fell in love with him, and that was before he died. My point was that some people can get booed out of the building, and then fans will fall in love with them. I'm not saying that fans fell in love with Roman. Roman got over. And I don't think it was solely on Paul Heyman, but we had a friendly debate about it. And it is what it is. Ultra is saying that he didn't know the Dave Meltzer story. Can I tell the story, please? Oh, no, the story with Dave Meltzer is simple. Dave was going to bring out a blockbuster article about Netflix numbers and how they were skewing WWE's numbers. And he had a formula where he was calculating the airtime and the viewers, but he included commercials. And I said, no, Dave, you don't include commercials. And I put the formula on X, and it was right. And he disputed it. And I'm like, Dave, there's nothing to dispute about. You know, when you advertise and you want to sell advertising, you show that Raw is on TV for an hour and 45 minutes without commercials. You don't tell the person that Raw is 2 hours and 40 minutes. No, you have to tell them the airtime without the commercials. They're not going to buy advertising space because a bunch of people are watching fucking, the general insurance. That was his first flaw. And then the second time around, he was going to put out this blockbuster story. And he's talking about the first 24 hours of Raw and why it could only be 300,000 views and this and that. And I'm like, the fuck you getting the first 24 hours? Netflix don't put that out. And then, doing research, I found that he was using a website, and once again, he made a mistake. The first time around, he was adding commercial airtime to his calculations. This time around, he was using Flix Patrol's numbers, which is video on demand. It's not live. So when Raw is on from 8 to 10 p.m. or 8 to 10:40 p.m. on a Monday night, that's not part of Flix Patrol's numbers. So when you see 300,000 or 400,000 the first 24 hours, that's because that's video on demand, and there's not that many hours left in the first 24 because it was live earlier in the night. So that's the thing. And every time I would get to the point where I wasn't asking him to say, you're right, but I was challenging his errors. And when it got to the point that he was cornered and wrong, he just ghosts people. He just ignores them. And then he tells people in message boards they're fraudsters. He called me a fraudster on a message board. I don't care. I don't care. I fucking still subscribe to his newsletter. I haven't canceled it. Yes, I'm a little lazy. I still subscribe to his newsletter. I don't deny that guy did so much good in the past, and he helped me too. You know, I don't think everything that he does is shit. Otherwise, I'd be the absolute moron right now putting money in his pocket. But what I don't like is, you know, when you sometimes when someone corrects you, sometimes you say, thank you, I didn't know that, or that's good to know. You know, these people are just smug. They're smug. All these motherfuckers are smug. And what's happening is a lot of you great people out there are starting to see it. They're starting to see it. When somebody asked Meltzer 3 weeks ago, hey, Dave, what's the impact number? I'm working on it. You ain't working on it. You're just reloading Programming Insider's website to see if it pops up on their website. You have no connections. I don't have no connections. WrestleNomics has no connections. The only way we get connections, we pay thousands of dollars a month. So when you see, instead of just saying, I don't have it because the demo was too low, he says, I'm working on it. It's a flat out lie. Did he ever get it? No. No, nobody ever did. Roderick says, between the nagging injuries and the interim nonsense, could WWE inherit a Rhea Ripley problem with fans? Especially if she instantly wins the title back when she returns. Well, I have said that Rhea Ripley is going to be the future Charlotte Flair. Rhea Ripley is the next in line to play Charlotte Flair. And what I mean by that is, I've always said Charlotte Flair is the greatest in the last 20 years. I have kind of said now that Becky Lynch is, not because Sports Illustrated says it. I say it now because Becky Lynch has elevated so many people with her. Maybe not on a level, but she has worked to elevate more people than you think. Charlotte Flair, because of her name, her legacy, her ability, her presence, her aura, what she's done in the ring, she has inherited, you know, opportunities that a lot of other people have had to work excessively for. And that would rub people the wrong way. And, you know, thank God Charlotte Flair it's overcome that. And now I think she's more popular than she's ever been. But Rhea Ripley, it will get to that point. Rhea Ripley right now is insanely over with fans. That's something that Charlotte Flair never had on that level. There was always a lot of jealousy towards Charlotte Flair. There's definitely jealousy for Rhea Ripley too, but as far as fans go, I don't recall Charlotte Flair ever getting these monster pops that Rhea Ripley gets. As long as that continues, Rhea Ripley is Teflon for the most part. But there's going to get a point where people are going to start getting frustrated with how Rhea Ripley has been given. You know who started getting that? As soon as I say the name, you're going to be like, Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair. She started getting that. And what happened? You had the weirdest of the weird. Oh, they're booing her because she's black. They're not booing her because she's black. They're booing her because they don't like that she just like sneaks in and gets an opportunity. It's not her fault. It's WWE Creative doing that. Remember, two-way matches turn into three-ways, and she wants to be part of this. And fans are starting to get a little annoyed at that. It's not Bianca Belair's fault. It's not because she's black. She's one of the top talents in the company. And WWE wanted to put her right back in the main event. That's on WWE. That's not on her. So Rhea Ripley, at some point, I think that happens. When it happens, I have no idea. But when it does happen, you will see WWE fans getting annoyed at WWE Creative. And kind of the only way to really vent it is take it out on Rhea Ripley. So I don't know when it happens, but it will happen. It will happen. And yes, you always got to take it out on the wrestler, because they're the ones that are out there in front of the camera. That's why Triple H said his beautiful comment at SummerSlam. I wish the fans would not focus on creative as much, focus on the wrestlers instead. He's trying to get people to do the opposite. You see creative, you get a little annoyed. You know, you rather just focus on the wrestler and what they do and the hard work they put in and the effort and the time and this and that. So he wants, you know, to kind of like give everybody else a break. It's never been that way. By the way, Once again, rest in peace, OTSTribalQueen. Right now, in the heavens, she is moderating. We miss her, and it's a shame what happened. For those that only tune in on Sunday nights, OTSTribalQueen, who is a moderator here, friend of the show, friend to me and Kev, supporter on Patreon. She supported a lot of other wrestling shows also. She died not too long ago of cancer at the age of 46. So for a lot of you out there over the last couple of weeks have been asking where has she been, that's what happened. So just goes to show you, and she's 10 years younger than me, and cancer took her. Just awful, man. All I could say that I didn't say last week is I hope in some way, not just my shows, but all of you mingling in the chat, I hope in some way we alleviated her pain a little bit. Took her mind off of what was going on. Because I had no idea that she was battling cancer. I only knew until after it was too late. So I just wanted to mention that. All right. Let's start bringing this home a little bit. What else do we got to talk about? What else I heard over the weekend that The Rock's movie Mona, is that what it's called? It's gotten hammered. They're losing another 100. How do you lose $100 million on a movie like that? How is that possible? I mean, The Rock, when does the Hollywood start shying away from The Rock? I mean, I get it. The Rock is started his own production company. Nobody's going to hire me. I'll hire myself. When do we start realizing that this guy, is kind of all right, kind of like the Steven Seagal of this generation. It's gotten past, and it's a shame because physically he still looks good. He can act. I thought what he did in the Smashing Machine was great. I think the problem was that it was not intended for a broad audience. A lot of people, I don't think, give a shit about UFC and whoever he was portraying. It wasn't an inspirational story that, transitioned just, ultimate fighting. I think a lot of people were like, fuck do I care about Mark Kerr? The hell do I care for him for? Guy Big Kaz. What do I care? I'm 10 years. You've been in AEW, motherfucker. If anything, Big Kaz should be the one right now wanting to cause revenge. I can't even get my job back. He's the one who should be causing revenge. In fact, you know what I would have done? I would have Big Kaz come back, try to do whatever he's doing, and have Enzo trying to jump the guardrail. What about me? What about me? Try to cause controversy shit like that and let fans see it. Let fans start online voicing out petitions, even busted open. Yeah, they could do that now. They could fucking have their own get together, petition, bring back Enzo. And then you could have brought him back that way. Make the fans think that it was the fans that brought him back. So, all right. What else do we got to talk about today? King Harris wants to know my thoughts on the Charlotte Jade getting ripped apart with their match. Look, Jade Cargill's had some pretty damn good matches, and she's had some stinkers. Charlotte Flair has had a plethora over the years of tremendous matches, and then sometimes you get the Nia Jax match. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I mean, it's, to me, when you compare it in other sports, it's like a quarterback that suddenly throws 4 interceptions or is 10 for 30. Or a basketball player that shoots a bunch of air balls, or can't hit for nothing. Or a baseball player that goes, the golden sombrero. It happens, I mean, if this becomes the norm, or if it happens more often, then I think we should all take notice and say something about it. But I don't have too much of an issue with people complaining, because WWE charges a shitload of money, even for Raws and SmackDowns. And if you're going to charge premium money and only give 3 or 4 matches, and some of them are drizzling shits, I think fans have every right to complain. I always use the restaurant analogy. You go to a restaurant, you pay $40 for your meal, $50 for your meal, and, you know, part of it was awful. I think you have every right to complain. You don't turn around and say, well, the salad was good, and the dessert was good, and the mashed potatoes were creamy, you know, and the vegetables were nice. You know, everything was great, but the steak was kind of like gamey. You have every right to complain. You know, you watched it. You have every right to complain. You took time and decided you were going to watch wrestling instead of doing something else. You have every right to complain. But I think really taking out on Jade and Charlotte, I think, you know, if it becomes the norm, then you start pointing it out. But I think, you know, people voiced it. Obviously, they didn't want what happened, and hopefully the next time around it's better. You know, I think the problem with Jade is she knows she's under a microscope, and I think when the wheels fall off, that's it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like someone that doesn't know how to drive on ice. Like if you've ever driven on ice, you've learned. Like if you skid, you turn into the skid and you pick your foot off the brake or you pump the brakes and this and that. You know, like there's things you could do. Sometimes none of that helps, but you know what you should do if that happens. And Jade Cargill comes off as someone who's never driven an ice before and fucking hits an ice patch and then suddenly just slams on the brakes and fucking starts moving the steering wheel like this. And meanwhile, you're just making it worse. I think that's kind of what happens. I always felt Ronda Rousey did that too. That's why I always, if you remember, we predicted it was going to be Becky, Ronda, Charlotte. Way before there was ever a thought about a third person, because as good as Ronda Rousey was, there was a point where everybody was nervous. If the wheels fall off, they fall off. And at least if you have a third person in that match, the focus could be moved away from Ronda for a little while until she like regains a little bit. I think that's beneficial for a lot of people. I think that's Jade's problem. She's, you know, as time goes by, I think she'll improvise and she'll know how to handle some of that. But with Jade, if you notice, it's kind of like Jenga with Jade. I think that's the best way. You ever play Jenga? You know, you pull a piece and it gets a little wobbly, but it like ends up staying still. That's kind of like what Rhea does and what Charlotte does and Becky and Sasha Banks or Mercedes Moné and that's what they do. Jade, more times than not, you pull the piece off and the fucking whole thing, it's like you don't even have a chance. You don't even have a chance. It just all falls apart. And time will improve that. I am a big fan of Jade Cargill. I am a fan, and I think she'll overcome that. But you're going to have stinkers once in a while. You have stinkers, so. Time traveling hopes that Big Cass power bombs Cody through 5 tables. You know, the funny thing is, like, no, Cody's not turning heel. Fans just love Randy Orton. You know, Randy Orton's become beloved. And, you know, like, there's no more, like, Stephanie McMahon to kiss while, you know, Triple H is handcuffed on a rope or something like that. You know, like, there's no, like, the Pat McAfee stuff couldn't even get Randy hated. So now Cody's got to be edgy, and he's like, you know, no more Mr. Nice Guy for me. And the problem is, even though you get some people online, he's turning you finally, you get like 90% of the audience pop at it. They pop. Cody gets this attitude, They pop. They get behind Cody. You know, the fans are going to be cheering for both guys, and WWE knows that. That's why this whole bloodline thing, I'm going to just call it like I see it. The bloodline LA Knight stuff, Solo Sikoa, is creatively awful. It is fucking awful because you have baby faces that are not being baby faces I hate using that term, but like you don't know who to fucking cheer and who not to. And that's fine to have two baby faces feuding. But when you see creatively, everything is a hot mess. We're not just talking about two people or four people. Takes two to tango. You're talking about fucking 12 people. Even CM Punk. Suddenly CM Punk and Cody Rhodes are going to be kumbaya again. Because SummerSlam came and went. Cody, I had nothing to do, or Randy did. Blah, 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 blah. Like, even Kevin Owens. Like, Kevin Owens just wanted an opportunity. But now Kevin Owens and CM Punk are supposed to hate each other. It's just a hot fucking mess. And this isn't like, I brought this up before. It isn't like Vince McMahon in 1997. The idea of good guy versus bad guy is passé. That's not what this is. This is just creatively a fucking mess. We don't know who to pair him up with. We don't know who he should feud. Well, boss, why don't you have him feud with this person? Yeah, but they're both babyface. All right, well, we'll pair him anyway. You're like, it's just a mess. It's a hot mess, man. Like, you don't know who to cheer and who not to. Like, honestly, I think that's what makes Baron Corbin even a better heel now. Because, like, you watch SmackDown, it's like, oh, yeah, that's who I'm supposed to take it out on. Fuck that. Him. He is him. That's the prick. Like, everybody else is kind of like, even Trick Williams for a while. People like, I watch wrestling with my wife. My wife doesn't watch it as close like she used to, but she'll watch some stuff and she sees like Lil Yachty. She knows who Lil Yachty is. And she's like, am I supposed to boo him or cheer him? And I'm like, well, if you listen to me, you boo him because of who he is, but no, you do whatever you want. My wife's convinced Seth Rollins is retiring. My wife is convinced. Because we actually had this conversation about Seth Rollins. We're like, honey, if you brought Seth Rollins back on TV right now, what would you do with him? She said, honestly? I said, yeah, she's announced my retirement. Really? And she's like, yeah. She's like, what are you doing with him next? That's my girl. That's my girl. Oh, yeah, Trick Williams is a babyface. Absolutely. I think Trick Williams, they're going to hopefully start teasing him going after. I think he'll become world champion before Bafemi does. I really do. I want to see Grayson Waller go to TNA. Sorry for coughing. I bought the pork rub shirt back. I don't know if people noticed, I started losing a little bit of weight. I lost 17 pounds in the last 2 months. So the pork rub shirt works. It fits again. Trust me, I would not be able to buy a pork rub shirt on Amazon without my wife knowing about it. So it fit. I said, I'll wear it tonight. Why not? S121 Ultra. Is Braun Breaker's spark over since Alba's arrival? No. Braun Breaker, we just touching the surface, man. It's kind of like what I used to say in the past with others. Lola Vice, I think will do just fine in the main roster. But you see how they brought in Tatum Paxley now? She's with Charlotte and Alexa. Eventually, it'll be Alexa and Tatum. That's really what this is going to be. And you realize that, okay, Tatum Paxley, get her feet wet, put her with, established veterans, help her along the way. And I think that's a great thing. One thing is for certain, Tatum Paxley's not going to be focused on being women's world champion anytime soon. She is going to basically be the third wheel for a long while. Sometimes bringing people up from NXT is fine and everything, but then what do you do when you bring them up? I bring up Kiana James, for example. I remember when Kiana James was first brought up and she was like around Adam Pearce. This is before she got injured. And I remember when she got called up and she was crying and the whole NXT audience, the wrestlers were all cheering her on and everything. And I remember saying that night, I'm a big fan of Kiana James, but now what? Like, I think I brought up that night like 20 women's wrestlers. I said, how's she going to leapfrog all of them? Lola Vice, I could see leapfrogging a boatload of people. But you bring someone up doesn't always help them. There's going to be some releases, obviously, and that'll open up some opportunities. But Braun Breaker, there is no rush. There is no rush with Roman Reigns is champion and CM Punk is champion right now. There is no rush. Right now, Obafemi is over like a motherfucker. But people are not going to pay thousands of dollars to watch him wrestle. Unless he's wrestling in his country, Nigeria. And I'm not even saying that to be funny or racist. I'm just saying, like, unless you're in your home turf, who's going to pay thousands to see Oba? Maybe if he fought Roman, but that's WrestleMania payday. That's not Money in the Bank. There's a lot of wrestlers right now, you're not going to pay that kind of on-location money. You have to keep other names. That's why Cody and CM Punk and Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, and that's why it's the same names mixed and matched, because they're the ones that have been proven to people paying insane. People paid fucking $10,000 to sit on Cody's bus for an hour and a half. Now I think they've been traumatized for life. Every time they go on a bus, you know, like they got to be reminded, like, holy shit, I spent $10,000. And if I saw Cody walking down the street, hey, Cody, how you doing? And he just, do I know you? I fucking dumped $10,000 on you. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I was drinking Wheatley that day. You know how Wheatley is. Like, people drop that kind of money, you know, I hope you recognize his face, motherfucker. I mean, that's dedication, man. Listen, if you got that kind of money and you could spend it, good for you. I really mean that. But, you know, those names, they're not the ones that are going to, like, people going to pay insane amounts of money for. Unless people just want to do it so they could be seen sitting front row. Because there are people that do that. There's people that do that for clout. I must be seen in the front row. Bobby, do I think Tony D is ready for the main roster? Hell no. I have said this repeatedly. I am concerned about Tony D'Angelo's future. You bring him to the main roster. Listen, I'm not saying it because I'm the true Don and I am the only Tony D, and, you know, because he fucking ghosted me on my honeymoon. It's not because of that. Trust me, I swear it's not because of that. At some point, I always felt, you've heard me say this years ago, the Italian gimmick would not work on the main roster. Unless there was a Sopranos revival or Jersey Shore was still a thing. You know, the stuff they were doing in NXT, it's developmental, you understand it. But some of the stuff they were doing with him and Santos Escobar was goofy. It was stupid. The whole, you know, mafia thing was, you know, very, very niche. You bring him to the main roster, what is he? What is he? He's a talented wrestler with a nice look to him, with a lot of hair, who's intense. Oh, that's going to sell tickets. What do the fans chant? What do the fans chant? What's the catchphrase? What's the attraction, the connection with the fans and Tony? There is none. And I'm not trying to be cold. I'm not trying to be an asshole. All right, I don't play that here. I tell you my honest feelings, why I think something will work or I think it won't work. You bring Tony D to the main roster, it's kind of like a neutered, muted Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona is dead in the water. Without the woo, there's nothing. You know, all right, you're married to Chelsea Green. He's a great fucking wrestler. Don't get me wrong. Killed it on the indies. Reinvented himself. You know, it's amazing what one hardcore match will do also. You go to the main roster, what are you? Really? You're like the Motor City Machine Guns. You're like other wrestlers who, you know, can work, but so does everybody else. Tell me, what does Matt Cardona do on the main roster that stands out from everyone else? Nothing. What? Sleep with Chelsea Green? What is it? There's no catchphrase. There's no Zack Ryder. You know, I'm serious now. Yeah, I'm serious too. If if they don't change him up with his gimmick, let him get hit on the head, do something stupid to go with Danhausen, get electrocuted, just go woo woo woo. If you don't fucking turn it around, you will be released quicker than fucking Cross was last year. He will be a goner by next year. Not that I want him to be gone. I'm just telling you as a longtime wrestling fan who have just observed, no pun intended, there's none. You bring Tony D to the main roster, what does he do? What's his gimmick? What's his attraction with the fans? What's his connection? There's none. There's none. I honestly, you bring him to the main roster. If he's not part of a faction, if he doesn't go back a little bit to a different character, which I personally don't think will work, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I can't see Tony D on the main roster. He's not a fake Italian. Tony D'Angelo's is outside of the wrestling. I hear nothing but praise for him. Very committed, hard worker, very loyal. Just everything about him. Good etiquette. Stays out of trouble. Family guy. I don't hear anything bad about him. But unfortunately, this is entertainment we're watching. And I just bring him to the main roster and what? What? No. All right, we're going to wrap this up in about 10 minutes. About 10 minutes. How the fuck did we end up over 1,000 people in a live? How is that even possible? If that's got to be a glitch. If there's a big bunch of you live right now, hit the like button. Let's see how many likes we could tally up. Look at me. I'm just sitting here bullshitting. So, but hey, maybe, you know what? Sometimes someone else has a live stream and they end early, and then some people come here. And then they're like, oh, I missed most of the show. Yeah, that's because you tuned into someone else before you came here, you prick. Sometimes there's a way I think you can have like all your viewers like go over to someone else's show. I don't know how you could do that. So I haven't done it for anybody else either, but I don't know. It's all right. Hey, we got a whole bunch of people hitting the like button, so I guess there are some people around. So much love. Hey, if you're hanging out for a little bit, if you came from another show, cool, very cool. So are we all in agreement about Too Cold Scorpio that guy's done 3 to 5 years? I would say he'd probably have to do 4 or 5 at least. 3 plus the second degree felony assault. He's got to do 5. I would say 5 or 6. I'm very surprised. Oh, it's called The Raid. See, Big G, I'm still not that familiar. I don't know if anybody raided here, but if you did, thank you. I guess it's supposed to be a good thing, right? I always thought raid was the opposite. I always thought when like a podcaster like goes in our chat room and says, hey, if you want to hear a real show, come over to here right now. So I always thought that's what a raid was. Like WCW raiding ECW from back in the day. Do I see Elena Black as the Knockouts champion later this year? Am I surprised to see her as a face? Elena Black, I've always heard is good people, but she's good at being a bitch. Like, I would think she's better suited as a heel, but I also feel she's not going to be skateboarding again. Like, if you're going to be like a badass bitch, that's fine with me. Like, Stephanie Vaquer, she's a badass bitch. Stephanie Vaquer is a baby face, but she's a badass bitch. You don't cross paths with her. That's kind of like what Elena Black needs to keep doing. You feud with heels more times than not, but you be that bitch still. I don't think that should change. Yeah, I could see her be a Knockouts champion. Absolutely. I think it was one of the better pickups that TNA had done recently. I think with the exit of Mara Sade, Jody Threat, no pun intended, I don't think is a real threat, anywhere else. She's a good compliment. She could wrestle. She's not bad at all. But, it's not like I don't ever see people with big signs as I paid to see Jody Threat, unless it's family member or friend. And listen, didn't happen for a lot of people. But Mara Sade, I'm a little surprised WWE doesn't bring her back. I mean, to me, I said this on, did I say it on Thursday's Patreon or Wednesday's Dynamite? I think I said on Dynamite. I want to if AEW brings in Mara Sade, I want to see her and Mercedes Moné feud or team up together. I think Moné and Sade, I think that would be an awesome tag team. I could just see like just their look and act like these real housewives of fucking ghetto Atlanta. I'm not saying they're ghetto, but you ever see like those women on those Real Housewives shows who just like they're naked, but they kind of like have like clothes that are so, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that they should be naked. I'm getting myself in trouble. What I'm saying is like Mara Sade and Mercedes Moné are two women that I could just see because of how exotic they look and how talented they are, that they could just have this team together and just give off nuclear jealousy. Not just amongst wrestling fans, but the whole women's roster. And the funny thing is, people will probably pay to want to see them get their asses kicked. Mercedes Moné, obviously, future Hall of Famer. But I don't know, for some reason, I always envision Moné and Sade as a tag team. I think that would work. But I'm surprised WWE doesn't bring her back. I'm still baffled. Out of everybody they let go a year ago, she's at the top of my list. Why did they let her go? I still don't understand to this day. But remember, she's dating, I think, Kevin Knight. So if she wants to work in the same company as her boyfriend, yeah, you go to AEW. And I think if she ends up going to AEW, they'll lock her up for a couple of years. I don't mean lock up as in Too Cold Scorpio. I mean, they'll contract her. They'll give her a contract for 2-3 years. She'll be there for a while. But I'm kind of shocked that WWE let her go. Rocky Ray wants to know, do I like dodgeball or kickball? To me, wait a minute. Dodgeball. Yeah, I was thinking back to school when we used to play it in school. When I went to St. Francis Prep, we played dodgeball. That was good because you played with guys and girls. And I don't remember it clearly because this is late 80s. But I do remember sometimes people a couple of guys throwing the balls at the girls like that, like turn them down for like the prom and stuff like that. Come here, you want to play dodgeball? That's for fucking turning me down. You throw it as hard as you can, fucking hit them in the head. So dodgeball, they always had the men and the boys and the girls fucking play it together. There would always be a poor bastard that would be the victim of the shot. So, I think Mara Sade ends up in AEW. I do, because I could see a little bidding war, but I think AEW will overpay. Tony Khan overpays for everything. He overpays for everything, but that's what a billionaire could do. It's like, he'll pay $20 for a Starbucks. Like, I want Starbucks bad, but I don't feel like going to the store for it. Uber Eats. $20 minimum. I just want a coffee. I could see him paying $20 just for Uber to drive him a coffee. You overpay. You have money like that, you can. It's like when you go grocery shopping. If you have a nice check, you don't care if the ice cream is $5 a pint or $8 a pint. If you're craving Rocky Red that much, you're going to buy it. You're going to eat it, and you're going to enjoy it. You're not going to eat it and be like, fuck, I paid $8 for that. So I think AEW will overpay a little bit for Mara Sade, but, I don't know what her worth truly is, but she's good. I am a fan. When do I think Blake Monroe finally has a match? That's Steph asking this. I think it happens this month. It's happening. Especially, you're teasing a little bit of Jay Cargill with the broken orbital bone now. I think Blake Monroe has a match this month. Make no mistake about it. This is not an Emelina thing. This is not what the hell was the guy's name? Oh my God. Indus Sher. What was the guy's name from Indus Sher? Holy cow. We forgot about him already this fast. What the hell was his name? Oh shit. Who's the guy from Indus Sher? He was coming to Raw. Oh my God. Oh, Veer Mahan. Veer, he's coming. He's coming. He came. He left. Oh my God. Look what happened in this year. never to be heard ever again. One of them, I think, like became like uber religious, and they showed him like walking the streets in his country, and that's it. Like wrestling is done. He's like, I walk with the llamas now. I walk with the animals. Like, I'm done. Like, he's literally done. We have not heard from Indus here at all. This Blake Monroe is not a Veer Mahan or an Emelina. They're not going to do the, coming soon. Next week, finally debut, and then she shows up, and, then you have like another 8 weeks of nothing. Once Blake Monroe hits that ring on the main roster, shit's on. And WWE knows that. So I've kind of gotten used to the name. I still love Mariah May a little bit better. I wish they called her Mariah Monroe. I would have used a combination of the two. A little tribute to Marilyn Monroe and the Mariah first name. But they did Blake Monroe. It's fine. But I do believe this month, I would say within the next 2 weeks, 3 at the most, but I would say 2 weeks. Because you got to remember, too, we got Saturday night's main event coming up. Again, Sunday night's main event, excuse me. I wouldn't be surprised if she's on that card. Sunday night's main event. Yeah, Veer Mahan is a monk now. And listen, I'm not trying to be funny. I mean, I give him credit, but how do you become... Remember he was supposed to be the $1 million arm, like the Atlanta Braves pitcher or something that could throw like 110 miles an hour? Fucking goes from throwing a baseball to throwing wrestlers around to walking barefoot with sheep. That's kind of like an epiphany. Like I could see like here I am my whole life, chubby, greaseball, I have my style, I have my music, and then one day you turn into the show and I'm bald, I got no hair, I fucking only drink almond milk, and like all of a sudden I talk like in a different tone, and like how do you transform? Like what happened? How do you go from baseball to wrestling to sheep? I would love to know. And I'm not even saying it to be funny. I'm fascinated. Because that's got to be also difficult. You have a certain life and you just give that all up. I don't think he found God. I think Veer Mahan has always been spiritual. I remember his early interviews when he was even in baseball. And trust me, I didn't follow him when he was in baseball. I followed him afterwards. Veer Mahan always came across as a good guy, but that is dramatic. I mean, you go from that. I could see if you're 70 or 50, 55, and your career is over and you realize, my new calling is to do this. My new calling is nature. My new calling is, totally different thing. Fine. If you're at peace with it, fine. But how do you go from that to this? That's the thing that fascinates me. I could never do that. So, and what happened to the other white meat? What happened to his partner? What happened to him? Like, he disappeared too. Like, that's it. It's kind of like the Highlanders. Remember? Robbie. They got released, the McAllisters. Remember that? And we were like, you'll never see it from them ever again. Kevin and I, over the years, have predicted the absolute disappearance of wrestlers. People would get let go, and some people you kind of knew would stick around. Kind of like Rick Boogs. When he got released, remember we talked about that guy? That's it. He's done. The only place you'll see him is at a convention or a fucking Chris Van Vliet interview. And so far he's done the Vliet interview, but he hasn't done the convention. I know about gladiators and all that, but that guy wasn't going to be around in wrestling. That guy wasn't going to work the indie grind. He's kind of like, like how Kevin Nash is. Kevin Nash crying publicly about protein bars and nothing to eat WrestleMania weekend. Get off your 6'10" ass and fucking go to the store. Buy a hero. Get food delivery, call room service. But they're supposed to pay for it. Well, you know what I mean? Like that's why I call him Karen Nash. He bitched and moaned that they didn't feed him. I can see if my dog says that because my dog don't speak English. I could see if somebody poor with a sign on the street says that. You fucking got millions of dollars and you go WrestleMania weekend and they don't feed you. So like a dumb Polak, you don't eat. Like if nobody gives me something to drink, I go and buy myself something to drink. All they had was apples and protein bars. Well, go to McDonald's then. What are we complaining to us for? I'm not going to watch WrestleMania because they would only feed him a fucking Pro Max bar. Like, what is that? I mean, trust me, I loved Kevin Nash's career. NWO was fucking awesome. You know, the stuff he did before, the Ghetto Blasters, is another story. But what is he trying to do? The best was when he was complaining about salaries being cut in half. And Andrew Yin Yang came out of the woodwork defending Karen Nash until Karen Nash found out what these motherfuckers were actually making. He's like, holy shit. He's a Karen. I don't have no sympathy for people like that. I feel bad what happened to his family personally and all that. You don't want to see that happen to anyone. A lot of his friends passing away also. But, when you're a millionaire and you've had it all and you become larger than life and you go public and complain about apples and protein bars, you, sir, are Karen. Yeah, you could kick my ass. Sure, you probably could beat the fuck out of me. You're still a Karen. Punch me in the face. You're still a Karen. Punch me again, Karen. Punch me again. Here's an apple, douchebag, Karen. Like, he's a Karen. The Master Blasters, that's what it was. The Ghetto Blasters. Did I say Ghetto Blasters? No, wasn't it finished? Oh, wait. Was Booker T the Ghetto Blaster? Who did the Ghetto Blaster? That was a good finisher, the Ghetto Blaster. What do I think of the report WWE officials souring on Sol Ruca? Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. They got her feet wet. Gave a little momentum, little championship run. Becky Lynch, a little rub. And, had some bumps on the road along the way. They didn't sour on her. That's, the problem is you got fans online that have short-term attention spans. It's kind of like a baby drinking a nipple. You give the baby a bottle, and the baby will drink the bottle for 3 days straight. And the minute you pull the nipple out of the mouth, the baby cries. So Sol Ruca, they pull the nipple out of the mouth, and right away, they think, oh, they took the title. Oh, they lost faith in her. What happens is a lot of journalists out there look at the prissy internet and look for the bitch babies. And when they see a complaint trend, they'll try to make it news. You know why? Because they'll say, you see, we were right. We knew there was something up. We knew that Dominic couldn't be happy about this. Look what they did with Danhausen. They look for bitch babies online. And when they see a bunch of bitch babies complaining about the same thing, they'll say, my sources tell me that WWE officials, Dominic is not happy about WWE officials and how he's being treated on Raw compared to AAA. My sources tell me that WWE is souring on Sol Ruca. Because what the bitch boys see on TV. It happens. It happens always like right after. You see Io Sky? Abu Shita. That's his name. Abu Shita. I'm Abu Shita with that guy from Wednesday. We all watch Io Sky lose to Liv Morgan and get screwed Judgment Day Raw-like. And suddenly, my sources tell me that Liv was supposed to lose. And plans change, blah, 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 blah. And that's because the bitch boys complained online. And it goes viral. That's what they do. Look at anything that they see a complaint, travel a little bit, and suddenly it'll turn into news. Do not believe it. Do not believe it. Put it this way. If any of that stuff was true, how come it always follows bitch boys complaining? How come you always have to wait for the IWC to trend bitch boys complaining, and then suddenly it becomes a news story? It's never the opposite. You never see the story come out and then everybody complains over it. It's always a bunch of complaints and then the news story comes out. Even Meltzer does it sometimes. Even the Roman Reigns, when they announced the tournament, everybody online said, a Grande Americano. It's got to be a Grande Americano with Dominic Mysterio. So what happens? Dave Meltzer falls for the bait. I mean, Brian Alvarez, excuse me. My sources told me it's going to be a Grande Americano's the favorite. Hey, Polak, how can he be the favorite if he's fighting for the Mega Championship? How can him and Dominic be even in a tournament? If somebody tells you that this is fucking white, are you going to report it because just somebody told you? Use a half a fucking brain and say, that doesn't make sense. I don't care who told you that. I don't care who told you that in fucking AAA. I don't care if Undertaker called you up and said, Grande will fight Roman. I don't care who told you that. You turn around and say, that don't make no sense. He's fighting for the Mega Championship. Why would he be in the tournament? You know, I appreciate your information. Let's give it a little time and then, no, just run with the story anyway. The only thing I can't do is roll the eyes. I can't roll the eyes like Undertaker. I can't roll the eyes. So, all right. We're going to start bringing this home. I tell you, it's pretty cool to see everybody hanging out tonight, having a good time. Don't take what I say too deep. You know, I try to just be a little bit lighthearted on these shows. I mean everything I say. Don't get me wrong. You know, but I don't have no deep hatred. I turn the computer off, you know, I go to sleep. I try to go to sleep. You know, there's no anger, there's no hatred, there's no vendettas. You know, people are going to talk stupid. It's my job to sometimes put that stupidity on blast a little bit. Because some of the stuff that we read out there is just awful. How do people get it so wrong so often and yet make all this money off of it? That's the thing that probably gets me mad. Out of anything, is these people make thousands of dollars a month and they do this. I mean, I get it. You do it long enough, people kind of feel like they owe it to you, so you just capitalize on it. But, you know, I can't wait for the day that there's no more Meltzer and there's no more Flair and there's no more. So I don't wish any demise. I don't want to see anybody deceased or anything like that. I think it might even get extremely boring when Wade Keller is no longer around and Abu Shita and all the others. I think it'll get boring. But, you know, look at Busted Open. I mean, if there was anybody, honestly, you guys know, if there was anybody that Kev, even before Kev passed away, there was anybody that we warned you motherfuckers about, it was Busted Open. We saw that shit 3-4 years ago. It took that long, but we saw 3-4 years ago the transformation into the WWE machine. And people were just in denial. No, they're different. No, they like to open it. No, he's one of us. Fungool. You know, sooner or later, you know, it comes to roost, and that's what happened. WrestleMess says Kevin Nash would have been Big Kaz without the NWO or Shawn Michaels. You know what? We could rag on Kevin Nash all night long. We could do it for free. But I do remember 1995. And yes, him beating Backlund in 10 seconds sucked. No question. I don't believe Kevin Nash being world champion in 1995 was a reflection on how awful WWE revenue was. I'm not one of those that'll go there. But I will say this. When Kevin Nash was Diesel, Shawn Michaels' bodyguard, and had that Royal Rumble, and shined in that Royal Rumble. What was that, 1994 Royal Rumble? Was that 94? I think it was 94. Someone could double check that for me. When he put on that performance in the Royal Rumble, I was sold that guy is going to be a future world champion. I do believe Kevin Nash, 1995, excuse me. Oh, yeah, that's right, early 95. I'm sorry. I was thinking Royal Rumble like winter time. Yeah, 1995. I was sold on Kevin Nash being a world champion. But you got to remember, this is 1995. That's 31 years ago. At that time, I was sold on him. Would he have been, listen, before the NWO was formed, and they did the Outsiders thing, and the NWO was shortly thereafter, Hall and Nash were mega over in WCW. I mean, it felt like there could be a little bit of an invasion. I mean, got to remember the internet in 1995 is a lot different than what it even was in 2005. And especially you didn't have, the dirt sheets on every fucking message board or every chat, trying to tell you, no, it's this, and it's this, and it's this, and the third man, and blah, 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 blah. You saw what you saw on TV, and it felt real because it was weird to see Scott Hall, on WWF, and then suddenly here he is here, and then Kevin Nash is on it, and then here he is here, or vice versa, I should say. No, that's the pattern it went. And then all of a sudden, Ted DiBiase, and it's like, what the hell's happening here? And then keep in mind, this was not too long after the steroid trial. So there was a lot of momentum on WCW's part and not WWE. Like Dave Meltzer will try to convince you in 2026 that AEW's got a major momentum high right now that WWE's trying to take back. No, they're both doing fine. It's just that WWE's kind of on cruise control and AEW's got their foot on the gas. You could both be doing fine at the same time. But for him, he's got to make you think that AEW is sticking it in the ass for WWE. Trust me, in 1994, 1995, it felt like WCW had some nice momentum and WWF was kind of like stuck. And that was only a year or two after Raw even became in existence. It was kind of stuck in the mud. And then Ric Flair left WWF in 1993. Hogan was already gone by 1993. So it felt like a shift. And then Savage went over. And then WWE was talking about new generation. Funny thing is, I invite anyone to look up how old was Hogan and Savage in 1995. How old was Hogan when he passed away? 72? Was he 72? So 31 years, he would have been 73 this year. 31 years ago, he was 42 fucking years old. Hulk Hogan in WCW was 15 years younger than me. So does it feel old? No. I saw today people were showing the fucking woman from the Golden Girls. Maud. Was it Maud? No, it wasn't Maud. It's the other one, the slut. Who is the slut in the Golden Girls? The one that always was trying to get laid. What was her name? Blanche? They showed a picture of Blanche from the Golden Girls. And they're like, Trish Stratus is the same age as Blanche. Like, you see what a 50-year-old looks like back then compared to now? So it's the same thing. So you think of Hogan and you think of Macho Man. It wasn't the young generation. Like WWF was trying to sell the new generation. No, it was the cheaper generation. WWF didn't have that kind of money. So it wasn't, they used the age as an excuse to get rid of these people, but the fact was, it was the size of the contracts. If you ever heard Jim Cornette on his podcast with Brian Last, they did that story once where Linda McMahon sent the memo to the staff. We're not going to have bottled water anymore. We're not going to have vending machines anymore. We're not going to have this anymore. We're not going to have copy machines and this and that. This was all around that time. They were not trying to get rid of the old talent. They were trying to get rid of the expensive talent. But this old... Getting rid of the old and in with the new just sounded that much better. That is true. That is real. Serious, look up Blanche. To me, I'll leave you all with this. I'll say this in closing. I know I've said it before, but a lot of you will get a kick out of it. I do have a little bit of gray, but if you want to hear something mind-boggling about me, go check this out. Anybody ever watch the TV show Welcome Back, Kotter? Anybody ever see the TV show Welcome Back, Kotter? It came out in the 70s, obviously. But John Travolta was on it, and you had Epstein and all those motherfuckers, Horseshack. You ever see that show? You remember the principal, Mr. Woodman? Remember him? Go look up Mr. Woodman's age when Welcome Back, Kotter came out. I am much older than Mr. Woodman. Now, I look at my wife, and I know a lot of you have seen pictures of her. It would be very unfair for me to post a very young picture, but yeah, this is us when we got married 4 years ago, okay? Look at my wife. Now just picture her standing next to Mr. Woodman. Wouldn't that kind of look weird? It would look like father-daughter sex or grandfather-daughter sex, granddaughter sex. Like, I'm older, much older than Mr. Woodman was. Just let that sink in about the 70s. So, it's crazy. Crazy. All right, let me jet. We're gonna. I know. I shouldn't be disconnecting this soon because we got so many people hanging out. But honestly, we're gonna run out of things to talk about super fast. And I got work tomorrow. But tomorrow night I'll be live right here once again. So if any of you out there had a good time tonight, took your mind off of some other shit, you want to hang out tomorrow night, join me right here. Right after Raw, we'll be live, like 2 minutes after Raw. We'll recap Raw. We'll get in some wrestling news. We'll get in some more discussion, answer your questions. So we definitely will have some stuff to talk about. And listen, I really mean this in closing. I mean, I do ask once in a while, and not many people interact with it, but seriously, what would you do with Seth Rollins going forward? I mean, that is disturbing. That is disturbing to realize. In 2022, he wrestled 126 matches. In 2023, he wrestled 106 matches. TKO buys the company, and then for the last 3 years, he wrestled 23, 20, and 18 matches. And that's singles, tag teams, six-man tags. That's everything. That's not just singles matches. He wrestled less than half in 3 years than what he did a year prior. That's telling. And when you see that low, and he's a regular, yes, injuries, but when you see that low, what the hell do you do with him now? What do you do? I would really love to know. So for the gentleman, shout out to you, by the way, for the gentleman at the very, very beginning of the show said, what's the Seth Rollins problem? Hopefully, I gave a little bit of an answer. And again, this is just my opinion. But I think we're starting to see a trend. Funny thing is, it's pretty wild to see CM Punk wrestle how many matches that he does. And Cody Rhodes is obviously QB1. That is legit. But it is kind of interesting to see some wrestlers still with the workload that they do. But if you start dissecting it a little bit closer, you will see that there are others in that same position. And it's going to be really interesting in a year or two. It's going to be really interesting to see what their workload is like in a year or two, because this is becoming a trend. And you would think, of all people, putting injuries aside, of all people, would you have believed if I told you that 3 years straight, the most number of matches Seth Rollins had in any 1 year was 23? 23. A whole year. And then when we got into the opponents earlier, you take away Dominic Mysterio and Braun Breaker. He only wrestled 20 matches, singles competition, in the last 2.5 years. 20. 2.5 years. That's less than one a month. So you start breaking it down, it's going to be really interesting to see what Seth Rollins is doing a year from now. So, all right, everybody, much love. Be well. I'll catch you all in the next one.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. Doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.